and I will tweet it.
I'm pretty sure we'll at least have James listening tonight. He seems to listen more than I think we do. Than I think he listens a lot. I've told him that he should be on the show since he's like the #1 single speeder that I know. But at some point, I think I heard a cat.
Yes, you did hear my cat.
Wonderful, I love it.
All right. Do you guys hear a crackle, or is it just me?
I don't hear a crackle.
It'll be a nice. It's the vinyl experience.
Well, I'd say is my fan making noise, but
no, it's some electrical thing on my end, and I'm just not gonna worry about it, and we're gonna go. So,
good. Sounds great.
Yeah, vinyl.
Okay. Well, why don't we wait 1 minute and I'll put the cat away?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, she gets very, very demanding. So, hang on. I'll be right back.
That's quite all right.
Sure. I see. He meant sort of in the mafia sense that he's going to put the cat away.
Oh, that's sweet, though. I've still been trying to get Alicia to we should get a cat. We should get a cat again. Come on, let's get a cat. She's never going to do it. Makes me sad.
I think I have no choice in that matter in the near future,
okay.
so we'll see.
You're getting
we
a
should
cat?
have a little more sun.
Someday we will.
Yeah?
Someday.
You're getting a cat and a dog then, Andrew?
Yeah, one of each.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Sort of like...
See, I want a cat again because we had a cat for many years, and then now Alicia's like, no, the cats mess up the bed. They get on the bed. They do. Yeah, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, but cats are awesome. Come on. So yeah, I don't think I'm gonna win that one. But 2 dogs. Come on, let's just put a cat in there too. Come on.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah, let's do this.
It's your show.
All right.
Lead us out.
My show. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Super #1 Cycling Podcast, the podcast for the casually hardcore. And Andrew, we've got a really exciting episode tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. We've got a guest who's not in the room. We're hitting all the check boxes that we need to hit on our show. So.
Okay, I don't know exactly what that means.
Well, the last time we had a guest, he was in the room.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
He was in the kill room, and the live viewers tonight and the people watching on YouTube.
And he didn't die. Yeah.
Will notice that I set up the kill room again tonight to see if I could dial the echo down in the room. But
your kill room is really creepy.
I kind of like it.
Anyway, but tonight we have Christopher Tassava of the Arrowhead 135, the Royal 162, JP's Backyard Pursuit, many other races that make me salivate for wanting to do them. Greetings, Christopher.
Greetings, guys. I hadn't heard about this kill room before. Now I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can see it on the video here, but Andrew sets up his room in a very soundproofy kind of way, but it ends up looking like something out of Dexter.
Yeah.
And
it's really not soundproofy. I just am sort of improvising the best I can. So I put an inflatable mattress behind me, and there's a lot less weird shit in the room right now. But before there was ladders covered with tarps and plastic sheeting and good stuff like that.
Bloody cleavers and
or an apron, So
yeah, that sort of thing. Anyway, so
Kevin. Speaking of killing it, we got a couple of reviews that we should cover real quick before we get
further. Let's do
any further. So the first one comes all the way from the Czech Republic, and it says, and in fact, it's perfect for the episode because the title is "Pushing Your Limits." And it's by I Cannot Even Ride a Bike Anymore. And it says, though a runner, I would say I understand very well what you love about cycling. You're hurting the whole bloody time, you're out of breath, and you're looking for any excuse to give up. But at the finish line, it's knowing that you didn't give up that keeps you going. I like your attitude towards cycling and the passion with which you talk about it. Signed, David.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's a fantastic review.
And then
I actually have to give you uber props for being a runner.
That's
I don't get it.
Not a game that I want to get into.
Yeah, but if you can do it and you enjoy it, more power to you. I mean, that's amazing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And the second one that literally just came in, as far as I can tell.
I just saw this one too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's from Plum Village in the U.S. and it says Brothers in Revolutions. I like that. That's nice.
That's nice.
Great show. I enjoy the race recaps from you both. Inspiring. Added bonus, I'm in Michigan, in parentheses, is relating to other riders killing it out on the roads through the cold months. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and, it's funny, someone, I don't remember who it was just talking about, when we were out racing last night. It was a hot and kind of sweaty, steamy night. Nothing like the summer will surely bring us in the next month or so, but he was like, it's not like the nights like these that make you forget about things like polar vortices and such. But yeah, how far we've come.
Well, speaking of polar vortices, today I was riding just a little bit. I did like maybe 10 miles total today, and half on my cross bike, half on my fat bike, and I was sweating pretty profusely, and I was going, you know what? I cannot wait for 30 degrees again. That sounds pretty great.
Isn't that weird?
84, 88, whatever it was right now. I'm like, that feels really, really warm. I was sweating a lot. I smelled like a swine. It was not good. So, I'm like, I'll take some of that cold again. Sounds great. How about you, Christopher? What do you think about temperatures and cycling-wise? Especially, like, what have you done this week cycling?
This week, nothing. I guess I went for a ride on Sunday. But, I commute on my bike every day, and even that 10 minutes one way is kind of gross.
Steamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like hot weather in general. It's fine, I guess. There's nothing you can do about the weather by definition, but yeah, I prefer 40. 30 is really good. 20 is pretty comfortable. That's just kind of where my body is most comfortable, I guess.
True Minnesotan right there.
Yeah. Well, I did this past year, cycling year, I rode in the Inspiration 100 up in Alexandria, a great century-length gravel ride. And it was, the heat index that day was about 100. So people were,
Andrew and I were
shape.
both there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So you remember.
Yeah. We remember. Yeah. We do.
Hot
I was
hell.
riding at single speed that day, single speed 29er, and I remember getting to mile 88. There's a cemetery there, and I just laid in the cemetery for a while.
Laid under the trees. Yep.
Yep. Just okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes and just cool down and then finish it out. Even though at that point I was seriously considering just calling it a race and being forget it. But even at mile 88. Yeah, it was tough.
There was a lot of hot riding left to do after that.
Mm-hmm. This was all that flat nothingness that was really that is the worst part of the course in my opinion, is the last half. But the first part is awesome. It's the best in the world. Norwegian Road. That is the best road in the world. Oh, so fun.
Yeah,
but,
so fun.
Yeah, awesome times. So, but speaking of these super hot temperatures that we're getting into right now, super cold temperatures that we've been used to in this last year, the topic that we have tonight that we're going to talk about cycling-wise is limits. And discovering your limits, pushing your limits, deciding where your limits are. I think these are all important things for any athlete, endurance or non-endurance. I think it's an important issue because for me anyway, in particular, I have a very hard time pushing myself if I don't have a goal. Some people are just able to do I just want to be fast, or I just want to do X. I need to do X and then find something beyond that as my next thing. Otherwise, I get bored. And so I'm constantly pushing a limit. So my current goal, which is just a couple weeks away, is that I'm going to do 200 miles in one go. And it'll be some pavement, some gravel, it'll be kind of half and half sort of thing, but that'll be my current limit. I have never ridden that far before. Now, Andrew, I know you have done many things for your limits. You're your number one crit champion state guy right now. And so, I mean, that's a huge limit. And then Christopher, I mean, you have done things that honestly Andrew and I would both go, like, that sounds absolutely brutal crazy. Because like the Arrowhead 135, which is one of the, I believe it was rated one of the top 10 hardest races in the United States. And you have completed it and got 7th, which is mind-blowing as your first attempt out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's crazy. And then you did JP's Backyard Pursuit, which is also another like brutally hard race, you know, and that's, to even attempt those races blows my mind as far as like, how do you decide where your limit is? Like, and where do you choose how far to push it? So that's what I want to talk about tonight is limits. And where do you decide your limit is, and how do you push that limit responsibly and not go out and just blow yourself up and feel like a failure. So I guess I'd like to start with Andrew. Andrew, you've been doing a ton of racing.
Mm-hmm.
You've been succeeding a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you're not a loser. Good job.
Well, you know, there's been a couple occasions, but
no, you've been doing very well. I mean, you've advanced from category 4 to category 5 to 4 to. Are you into 3 now?
I can be when I want to be, and I'm just deciding when that point is. So
okay. So you're doing very well.
They haven't forced me yet, but it is coming soon. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So when you choose, actually, let me just take that back. Limits. What does that mean to you? What does a limit mean to you as far as cycling?
You know, it's kind of interesting actually, because I've in the last couple of weeks have had you know, some new perspectives when it comes to like the racing experience with respect to limits, because you know, before you know, the last 2 weeks, you asked me, you know, that question, I would have talked about things like just, you know, how hard can you push yourself and for how long, and you know, even you know, as well as, you know, racing has gone obviously really, really well. And so lately, before I decide to make the upgrade to go to the next, you know, to category 3, and where racing, of course, is going to be faster and harder, and there's going to be more competition, and that sort of stuff. You know, I wanted to, you know, both enjoy the winning that I have been doing, and I'm enjoying it a lot, obviously, but I decided that I needed to, you know, kind of stop racing conservatively, like, which is what I normally do, because I'm always racing for the win, basically. Yeah. And so what that means really is that rather than always sort of getting myself positioned in the group and responding to attacks and saving myself for the sprint in the end, if there's going to be a sprint, you know, I need to start doing other things. Like I need to start, you know, launching breakaways and seeing if I can, you know, push myself, figure out how long I can hold myself, you know, away from the group, and can I do that, and what's my limit there, and that sort of stuff. So like last Saturday, I got to race in the in Minnesota. They've got this really cool stage race that's a pro stage race. It lasts like 6 days. It used to be called the Nature Valley Grand Prix, and they dropped out of their funding thing, and so now it's the North Star Grand Prix, and who knows if it'll happen next year. But so it's an entirely pro race, but in Menominee on last Saturday, they have a crit that happens on the stage where the road race finishes for amateurs, and so that includes, 4-5 and stuff. And so you know, the cool part about that, of course, is it's got the barriers, it's got the announcer, it's got like the starting, you know, the finish line clock to tell you, you know, splits and that sort of stuff. And an announcer announcing your name, and so we do the race, and sure enough, a guy does a solo breakaway, and you know, the rest of the group I was in, we were trying to sort of organize a little bit to you know, reel him back in, and I realized at a certain point that wasn't going to happen, and so rather than, you know, trying to bridge that gap and pull everyone with me, I said, screw that, I'm going to see if I can bridge the gap solo and drop everyone else and get up to that guy and you know, do that. And so I ended up doing that. I did a solo bridge, and then he and I worked together for like 8 laps in a breakaway, and we got our time up to like 45 or 50 seconds, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so, like, in terms of what does that mean for limits, but it's like that's one of the things that, instead of racing conservatively, what I wanted to do was, can I do a breakaway? And I know that I can, I'm fairly confident when it comes to things like when I haven't done a lot of time trialing, but when I go out and do solo rides, like, okay, for the next 10 miles and the next 20 miles, I'm just going to go as absolutely hard as I can, heart rate super high, and just hold it. But can I do that in a race situation, and that sort of thing and still, do well in the race? Like, can I hold it? Can I push myself hard enough to keep away from everyone, but not too hard that I explode? And also be smart enough to win the race in the end and save enough. And in that case, I was able to.
Well, this is a very interesting thing because, Andrew, you're talking about very much like your personal drive is definitely almost by numbers. Like, I want to hold this pace at this, like, I know you, Andrew. You have spreadsheets about how you do all this stuff.
Well, I do, but so I know the numbers and I've calculated the numbers, and I find those interesting. But frankly, when it comes to races, sometimes I'll glance at the computer, but most of the time, you just respond off a feel.
You're looking at the guy in front of you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're looking at the people behind you, whatever it is.
Exactly. So it's mostly on feel, yeah.
Right. And so this brings up the counterpoint, or I don't know about counterpoint, but Christopher, like, you are doing races such as the Arrowhead 135, JP's, the Royal 162, like long races. What drives you to push a limit there?
Did we lose him?
Did we lose Christopher?
Might have lost him.
Oh no.
Whoops. There he's back.
Hello.
You hear me now?
Now we hear you.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Did you mute him?
Sorry
I might have.
Andrew, God.
It's possible. No comment.
It's all that heavy breathing I was doing. I'm really sorry.
No, that's all right.
No.
All right, so I don't know if you heard did you hear my question before?
Yeah, no, I heard everything right up to your question, and I was responding that.
And then nothing happened.
Some of what it is, for me, is just seeing how far I can ride a bike, either in miles or in hours or whatever.
Right.
With the Arrowhead, it was about whether I could finish. That was my main thing. I didn't have a plan except for trying to get from one checkpoint to the next, and once I was at that second checkpoint to get to the third, and like I wrote in some of my posts on it, when I heard I was in, at one point the top 15 or something, and then it turned out to be in the top 10, I was staggered, but I didn't have any. That wasn't the limit. I was just trying to break,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the Fat Pursuit was somewhat similar. That was such a different context for racing for me at altitude. Very different kinds of trails than I'd ever ridden before. So, I didn't end up finishing that race, but definitely I pushed limits in a very different way. I tried to go a lot harder than I had at the Arrowhead because I felt like I could have ridden the Arrowhead faster. I hope I do next year.
Right.
But again, it was more a personal kind of thing. These fat bike races, you don't see a lot of people, so there's not, people to catch usually.
Yeah,
or,
no rabbits to chase.
Even work with.
Yeah.
No rabbits to chase. At least the way I race them. Maybe up front it's a little different. The Royal then was, that was as far as I've ever ridden a bike in a day. So, again, it was about distance. I knew a couple guys who were in it, and it was fun to ride with them. But again, it wasn't a real race for me. I didn't try to hammer the whole time and get my time down to some incredible level. But maybe next year, I don't know. So the limits for me are much more seeing whether my body and my bike and my mind can take a particular distance or a particular context.
Right.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, like the body and the mind split between on a bike, especially as far as the limits go, because I find that my mind will, I don't want to say break, but my mind will get weak before my body does, almost 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to that, Chris?
People ask me after the Arrowhead, didn't you want to quit? Weren't you cold? Didn't you just want to go inside and be warm and, lie down? And there were some points where that kind of sensation passed in front of me. Like when I got to the checkpoints, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Sitting down, and the air isn't so cold that it's burning my lungs and stuff like that. But I never wanted that to be the state. I wanted to get back out in the cold. the Royal, that's a hell of a long ways to ride a bike. But I never felt like, okay, this is just stupid. I'm going to stop and ask somebody to come get me. Maybe it's stupidity. Maybe it's, I don't know.
Here's the interesting thing is that I've done the Almanzo 2 years in a row now, and I've done it on the same bike, pretty much the same setup, everything. I mean, the gravel conditions this year were harder than last year, that whatever. But this year I came into the race with a kind of weird mindset where I was like, you know what, I just didn't feel like being there. I was having a hard time from mile 20 all the way to mile 80 of like negative mind space. And like that was like my problem with it, is that I was actually having the thoughts of like, why am I out here? I've done this race before. This is dumb. This is stupid. Why am I doing this? Still finished the race, still did it in a relatively good time, in my opinion, all that. But I found my limit was right there. It wasn't even a limit though. I shouldn't say that, but my, what's less than a limit? My roller, let's say that. It's not like a straight hill, but it's a roller. Was like this mind space that I had in the race where for some reason on that day, I just wasn't getting into it. So Andrew and Christopher, I'd like to, pose this question to you both of like, so when you're in a event or just your own personal goal that you're doing where you're trying to push a limit, how do you actually push your mind or your mental abilities past the point of like saying like, this is dumb, why am I doing this, what am I trying to prove, et cetera, et cetera. Let's start with Andrew. What would you say about that?
Gosh, I mean, because lately I think I tweeted about this but yesterday, but I get that sort of sensation that you're describing with the Almanzo pretty much every week, twice a week now with racing. And it's just, the pre-race anxiety is, for me, is not quite like paralyzing, but it's overwhelming. It's the desire to do well, the desire to maintain my level of performance that I've had so far. And the new factor in all of this is, last week I had my very first crash in a race, which fortunately I came out of it pretty well. One of my friends didn't come out of it as well, but I mean, he's okay. It's just really banged up. And the bike, of course, came out decently. I had to do a little derailleur hanger, repair today. But so that the new factor in that is not only do I, am I freaked out about performing well, now the thing I'm getting over is, the fear of getting back out there and going through corners with, lots of people at, 30 miles an hour. And so it's funny because... Oh,
by the way, cornering at 30 miles an hour is absolutely insanity. I don't do that on my motorcycle, so that's crazy.
Yeah, with a 25 millimeters of centimeters of
rubber on the
units
road.
Are not working for me right now.
Yeah.
Of rubber on the road, right, and dirt and that kind of stuff. So for me, every other 3 days or so, I'm presented with these ideas like, why am I doing this?
Special brand of crazy.
What is the point? And it's just one of those things that I sort of feel like I have to be out there, and that's the funny thing. It's like, this is my hobby. This is what I do for fun. In fact, it's so much my hobby that I pay to do it. And but why am I doing it? And so far, at least, fortunately, I'm able to sort of just push past that and just kind of say, okay, you're gonna have fun. You're gonna look back on this and say this was fun. And by and large, that's been true, even though last night kind of sucked. But for me, I totally get what you're saying. That's just like a big mental barrier, and I guess it's just one of those things that it's like, I have to do it. And it's the have to is a sort of a silly, no one's forcing me to do it, but for me, I'm forcing myself to do it. And it's one of those things that I recognize that the fear, the anxiety, the trepidation is, some of them it's reasonable. I crashed last week, and I could crash again. And, part of bike racing, honestly, is crashing. Everyone's going to crash at some point. And so that's just, you just kind of have to accept that fact, and if you want to do it, and move past it. And
Yeah.
I mean that's again it's one of those. It's is it a limit? Maybe not, but I mean it feels like a limit in your head, and it's one of the ones that you're able to push past, hopefully you are able to push past. Because when it comes to like physical limits, those are a little more cut and dry. Like there's limits. You can tease them.
Well, we'll get to physical
Sure,
limits
sure.
in a moment. But what would you say, Christopher, as far as like mental limits? Like have you reached them? How do you push past them? Like what are your common problems with that?
Yeah, the mental limits are definitely more challenging to me than physical ones. I mean, I'm not a fast rider. I can ride at my pace for a very long time, and so the mental game of keeping myself going is interesting to me. At the Arrowhead, I'm about halfway through. I keep going back to the Arrowhead because for me it's been such a I've thought about it so much.
Pretty epic.
Well, it's an amazing race. So
I mean, I early on in the race, and maybe even the night before when we were at the orientation, they're talking about how cold it was going to be, and we'll be lucky if half of you finish, and all this kind of doom and gloom. I thought, I want to be one of the people who tomorrow, although it wound up being 2 days later, who says, in his head, I did it. I finished under these
horrendous conditions.
These particular conditions, on this bike, in a rookie year, all that other stuff. I want to know in my own head that I did it. And it turned out that other people were interested in the fact that I was doing it and wound up doing it. But for me, it was much more an internal state that I wanted to realize. I wanted to feel like I'd accomplished that thing. And like Andrew was just saying, nobody's making me do it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's very few things in my life, at least, where people are compelling me to do anything that I really don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, maybe playing with that limit that I really don't have to do many things under any compunction at all. So I take on this crazy bit of activity.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing, just out of interesting stuff, I guess. So the Arrowhead this year, for people who don't know, the Arrowhead this year was brutally cold. Mm-hmm. It was negative 27 at the start line.
Yeah, it was like minus 27, 25 or something at the start.
Right. It was brutal cold. Mm-hmm. So these guys are riding bike through a very, very harsh Minnesota winter. I mean, as far as cold. I mean, snow was like average, like a little more than normal, but it was about average. But the cold was just crazy. And so, in some weird act of solidarity, myself, Christopher Scogan, and Corey Edge, a couple guys from here, Rochester, and the guy who runs the Almanzo, that's Christopher Scogan, we decided, when you guys are out, riding bike, we're going to go sleep outside. And so we pitched a tent in a snowdrift with a tarp that had open ends on both ends. It was brutal cold, man, because we weren't even moving. We're just laying there. But yeah, we slept outside that night. So I got a little bit, like a tiny taste of what it would have been like to have been riding bike that whole night. And I can say, your mental ability to keep pushing all night, in a winter night, which lasts forever. I mean, I actually think about the mental ability to push through something that, let's just say, Andrew, a crit for you is a half an hour, right?
Or 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's something like that. Okay. That's a brutal long time at that pace, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, 8 hours of darkness, that's a amazing long time of darkness and solitary confine. I can't imagine it. So this is the thing that I'm kind of wondering about both you guys, because I have done a couple of rides where I've pushed one limit, maybe. Now, Andrew, you and I have done a ride last Thanksgiving where we did 135 miles in 8-degree weather. It was cold. It was nasty. We got to Hutchinson.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped at a Dunn Brothers, and I was shaking so uncontrollably. I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to actually finish this. So I put all the clothes on that I had in my backpack, because we were both riding with backpacks. Put all the clothes on. I ate a whole sandwich, 2 hot chocolates, and a bunch of other stuff just to try and warm up, and we did finish the ride. And I was like, that's awesome. Okay, that was a limit for me. That was a huge limit push. Honestly, I know you were like holding back. You were like, come on, hurry up. But you know, I was pushing hard, and I look at that ride and I'm like, that is the ultimate limit of what I have reached. And so when I'm looking at this ride coming up for me in a couple weeks, which is 200 miles, you know, like it's 65 more miles than anything I've ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be much more warm. I mean, which is good and bad.
Yeah, right.
I guess I'm looking for advice here, guys, because I mean, I love to push a limit. And I think all of us do. And I think most cyclists do as well. I don't know any cyclist that's like, I do 10 miles every day, and I only want to do 10 miles. That's all I ever want to do. I never want to push beyond that. I mean, cyclists, endurance athletes, marathon, whatever it is, I mean, everyone likes to have a goal or a limit that they want to push. And so I guess I'd like some advice from you guys who have actually pushed a limit that's beyond what I have pushed, on what motivates you to actually like push well beyond what you think you can do. I guess I'd like to start with Christopher, especially because you did, you know, 2 winter rides that were, I mean, let's face it, they're brutal rides. They are physically painful rides to do. I don't think there's any way around that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely going through a lot of physical pain, a lot of mental hardship to finish these races. I mean, what is driving you to do this, and what made you want to, like, you know, this is a great idea, let's do it. You know, I mean, what it is to do that? Because I mean, I'm looking at this 200-mile ride that I'm going to do, and I'm like, I want to do it, but I still haven't figured out exactly why.
Yeah.
Why do I want to do this? Because I know I want to, but I haven't like put the words to why I want to do this. So go ahead.
Some of my reasons were really mundane. I grew up in northern Michigan, where there's lots of trees and forests, and that seems normal to me. It's not like that down here in Northfield, so I wanted to be up in the woods. So that was one motivation for being, you know, trying the Arrowhead.
Right.
You know, the lore around it of, you know, being so hard and, you know, bragging rights for life if you can finish it, and all the dropout rate stuff. I wanted to, you know, those are limits of another sort. I wanted to see, well, would I be one of the guys who bailed at the first check, or would I, you know, bail at the second, or would I manage to finish it? With the Fat Pursuit out in Idaho, I'd never been out west. I thought, well, this will be an interesting, different experience. I've never ridden at altitude. I've never lived at altitude. You know, can I do anything very interesting at 9,000 feet? Turns out I needed to train a little more. But those are some minor motivations. But okay, trying to do a double century, which I've never done, you know, hats off to you for planning one and, you know, carrying it off in what's probably going to be a pretty hot 24-hour period.
It's going to be brutal.
I mean,
but
the mileage matters to me a lot.
Yeah, like I honestly am more concerned about the hourage than the mileage. You know, it's mileage that comes and goes. It's like, how many hours are you actually in the saddle? That's for me the more important part.
Yeah.
But it's very inspiring though to hear that, like, someone who does races that I look at as a goal, like I plan on doing the Arrowhead 135, not this in 2014, 15, whatever it is, not this coming winter, but the one past that. That's the one where I'm planning on doing it, because that's what I'll be able to acquire all the gear that I need and everything in order to do it. If I ever do the Arrowhead 135, I will consider myself at that point, like the here's the funny thing about limits. But the 5 minutes right after I finish it, I'll be like, I'm done. I'm done. I don't have to do anything ever again. You know, and
Until
then
the next
then the 5 minutes wears off, or I take a nap or something like that, and be like, all right.
Right.
Now what?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I think that's I think a really positive trait, though. You know, because like for me, with all this racing, and even though I've done, you know, I had an awesome season so far, like, you know, and I won the state championship, that's not enough. and it's not like a
yeah, that's not enough.
Well, but
Boy,
it's just like that, that
don't-
happened, and that
Yeah.
the awesomeness of that was,
Yeah.
it lasted, and it really still lasts now. But there's more to do. There's more.
Well, of course,
there's
yeah.
more achievements to go after. There's the next race. There's the next mileage goal. There's the next time goal.
There's still the
There's-
outs,
Yeah, there's racing at 40 below, or riding at 40 below. I mean, there's just always the next thing, and
Mhm.
and it's for me the idea of the thing that's why I do all of this stuff basically, is that it's always a question of what can I do next. Like I've done this, what's next? And
Yeah.
and I don't expect and if maybe I can make it happen, but I don't expect to get the state championship in crits or road races when I hit Cat 3. It could happen, it's possible, but that's not like I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try for it someday. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see. But
Sure.
so there's all these sort of possibilities, like of what's the next thing? Okay, the next thing for me is gonna be double century. The next thing is gonna be doing. Hold on, I lost Chris. Oops. Do 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 do.
Back on?
I hope I'm still online. No, he's not yet. There we go.
There we go.
So the next thing is, doing a double century, or doing a century in sub 6, or all of these things, and it's just, it's always a question of what can I do that's better than the last time, and
Yeah.
it's for me, it's really the thing that sort of just kind of gets me out there and motivates me to do something else, and that's why I like things like Strava, because it's like, you've done this last time, what can you do this time? And it's a motivator, and something to just sort of set your sights on, and maybe sometimes those things are unrealistic, like getting state championship in Cat 3, or getting state championship in Cat 2, and on and on and on and so forth.
Right.
But maybe it's just as simple as I wanted to do 1 second faster on this hill climb, or that guy up there on the hill, like tonight on my hill ride. That guy ran a red light so he could beat our group up the hill. I'm going to beat him. I mean, it's all of these things are all about sort of having a rabbit to chase. And sometimes you're not going to catch that rabbit, but it motivates you to kind of get back out there and do your thing. And
I mean,
go ahead.
Somebody for me who's more at the back of the race, the rabbit is usually myself.
Right.
I mean,
and I think
want
that's
to
the best rabbit, really.
Yeah, it's the most reliable one, at least.
Yeah.
With the arrowhead, can I do it in less than 29:09? Can I if I go back to the Fat Pursuit next year, can I finish it? If I do the Royal or the Almanzo again, can I don't know, hang in groups better? Can I cut my time down? And there's all those easily acquired but hard to accomplish goals.
Right.
That are, for me at least, very motivating. Maybe other people don't find those kinds of things motivating. Maybe they need other more extrinsic motivators, but they're really powerful for me.
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful motivator, especially when they're things that were right in your grasp the last time you did it. Like, it was just, if you had thought a little bit more, or if you had just had a little bit more energy, or whatever, you could have stayed with that group, or you could have I should have drafted that guy when he was pulling, because he thought he was super strong at that point. I could have gotten an extra couple of miles off this guy, or something, whatever it could be. When I'm looking at my upcoming, good Lord, upcoming double century, I'm looking at it. I'm actually half of me is really petrified. I'm going okay, this is going 65 miles past anything I've ever done. I will be doing this solo. There'll be no drafting. If the wind is bad, I will suffer all day long. I'm aiming. I'm hoping for under 18 hours is like what I'm aiming for. Like, and that's super generous. Like, I think I can do it quite a bit under that, but I'm saying 18 hours. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to ride this ride. Honestly, there's going to be like one bailout for me, and it's going to be my father, who would like say like, okay, I'm going to call you if like everything hits the fan and I got nothing left, and like there's like, okay, yeah, I come pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if I ever did that, to me that would be like self-destructing that limit.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is the problem that I have with setting a limit for myself. So I love to set limits for myself. I love to say, like, I'm going to ride a ridiculous... Like, I love the look on people's face. When you say, like, what do you do for fun? I ride 100 miles on gravel. You know, and they go, what? You know, like, that is the best feeling in the world when they go, like, you're insane.
Yeah. Why do you do
like,
that?
Yeah, why? Because it's actually fun. It really is. And part of the fun is seeing your expression, and that was great.
Right.
Thank you for enabling my fun. You know, I really enjoy that. But I guess here's the thing about limits that is the downside. There are times that the limits break. There are times where you are not going to meet what you set out to accomplish. How do you guys deal with that? I mean, I know how I've dealt with that. I've done rides in the past where I'm like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do X amount of miles at this speed. And I go out there and I just blow up at like, you know, 3/4 or half the way through, and I'm like, no, I'm done. And then I limp the way back in, you know, to finish it off, and I feel like crap. Not, you know, like, oh, I never want to bike again, but I'm just like, why couldn't I do that? It's just angering. And I guess what I want to talk to you guys about that point is that it's something that every cyclist or every endurance athlete is going to come up against, is that, oh, by the way, I've set this goal and I didn't meet it.
Right.
And how do you get past that? So let's start with Christopher. I mean, like, you've had a lot of really excruciating goals that you've set out, limits, like especially JP's. I mean, that was a huge upgrade from the Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And that is a race that you didn't finish, and you got so close to finishing. So, I mean, how did that feel, and how did you get over that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't crushing. I didn't, like, you know, rage against the universe or something. I knew right away as I was, you know, I'd missed the third checkpoint cutoff by hours and hours. I just knew, you know, this wasn't turning out the way I'd planned it.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew at the same time that, you know, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have ridden any harder, given my condition, my bike, altitude, all the variables. You know,
right.
Gave it my best shot, and a lot of the experience was in the striving, not in the finishing necessarily. Although finishing is great too. And I mean, when I got pulled from the race, you know, JP met me at this road crossing, and he didn't tell me that I had to stop, but he made it pretty clear it was time for me to finish the race, just climb into the van.
Yeah.
I mean, I cried the whole way back to the start-finish area. But it wasn't, it wasn't raging against the universe. Why couldn't I do this? Oh, if only I'd had X, Y, and Z happen, I could have done it. It was relief and a sense of, okay, you know, I'm not unhappy with the effort, and now I know what I need to do if I come back next year. You know, here are the million things that I can do differently, and hopefully it'll turn out better. But I like what you were saying before. Both of you really were commenting on this in different ways, that within the races or training rides even, you know, there's all kinds of different moments where you get to choose, you know, am I going to follow that guy, or am I going to stay back in this group? Or, you know, am I going to hammer this hill harder than everybody else, or am I going to, you know, just cruise it at whatever speed? I mean, I love all that stuff too. They're the limits and the little mini goals within any ride that are so interesting to decide. I mean, you in some cases only have a second. You know, there goes that guy. I better jump that wheel.
Right.
Or you contemplate the hill, you know, Oriole Hill. all day long. You think, when I get there, am I going to have the gearing and the legs to go up it on my bike, or am I going to wind up walking? And
Yeah.
that to me is very motivating, and it's a limit that you can test right there in the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with the Oriole Hill comment there. Like, you're thinking about it all day. You know it's coming. And so when it finally arrives, you're, all right, do I hammer this, or do I just forget it, I'm walking.
And at that point, there was no such thing as hammering. It was just like there was doing or not doing.
Okay, let me say this. Okay, like there's sledgehammering, there's 16-ounce hammering, there's 12-ounce hammering, there's peen hammering. Like at that point you're peen hammering. Where you're just in the like tack hammer,
plastic hammering.
You're drunk hammering. Eventually you'll get it.
Well, thank God for the Banjos Brothers booth. I mean, really, seriously, without that beer, how did anybody make it through? Exactly. Like the one beer, and like 6 Oreos, like totally made my day at that point. That was great.
Well, it's funny because a lot of what we've sort of been talking about for the most part is sort of like goals in some ways, and not necessarily limits. But
yes and no.
Well, yes and no, but when it comes time for things like the Oriole Road, or like the sprint at the end of the race, or the sprint at the end of your second race for the night, which is what happened for me last night, it's like I reach these points where, and it also kind of is the fear before the race, that anxiety sort of stuff, where I'm constantly sort of grappling with that pressure in your head that says, you should just sit back, you should not do this, you should give up, you should not chase the wheel, you should just, pack it in and call it a day because your legs hurt, your legs are starting to cramp or whatever. And I feel like that, that's always sort of a constant thing that's there. And most of the time I'm able to sort of push through that and find out that, hey, that really wasn't a limit, and that was mental. Last night, I tried to do that exact same thing, even though I was hurting, and all of a sudden my quad or my calves just went and just double calf cramp, which has never really happened before, but it happened last night, and that was interesting. And so for me, most of the time when it's come to racing and the Alonso and all these other things, for me a lot of the limits have always been mental, and that's why you goals like whatever the rabbit is, push through those sort of mental things. And when it comes to actual physical limitations, so far at least, those have seemingly been somewhat relatively rare. Whereas and that's I think kind of the other side of the coin that's kind of interesting because there's a certain point where the physical limitations become real. And one of the fun parts about cycling is pushing those things, testing those limits, and eventually those things no longer become limits, and you push to the next level, and now you're faster or ride longer or whatever. But I think the interesting part is really like is there a limit at the upper threshold, at the point where you have to say, I'm out of the race, I'm done.
That's the limit.
And when you sit back and you say, this is where I quit, and because sometimes for me, in all recent experience at least, and even through all the winter centuries and that sort of stuff, a lot of those limits that I thought were physical ended up being mental. What I'm interested, to hear about from Christopher, really sort of, and I experienced this just a tiny little taste in the wintertime in terms of like the absolute raw physical limit. But like, there's a certain point, especially in winter riding and in the Arrowhead 135, where you say, nope, done, not losing a finger or toes or whatever. Yeah. And how do you grapple with the pure like raw physical limitations with the mental goals that you set for yourself?
Great question.
Yeah. Well, for me at the Arrowhead, it was if I get to a point where I can't physically function because I'm so cold or I've bonked or I'm putting myself in actual danger.
Right.
Then it's time to figure something else out. Like they said at the orientation, you're pretty much always just turn right and you'll hit the highway. So there's a bailout for everybody practically. Although, when it's 40 below overnight, it's a different kind of situation.
Right.
Than, during the Royal or something.
Yeah.
But that I never reached that point. I was lucky that I didn't get frostbitten bad enough to have to drop out, a little on my nose, and I still have a couple numb fingers, but nothing like some people encountered. Afterwards, I read all kinds of people who were saying, DFL really means did nothing fatal, which I liked. 'Cause that was a serious consideration, and lots of people did either drop or got pulled because they were suffering in a serious physical way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I liked what you were saying, Andrew, about how often what you think are physical limits turn out to be mental limits, because you've guessed that, that's as hard as I can go, and then something impels you past that point.
Right.
In a race, it's because you're following a guy who is going up ahead and you want to stick with him, or
right.
A hill that you hadn't ridden before, or whatever. And that's really satisfying to find those points. But with the Fat Pursuit, that was where I found a physical limit that physiologically I just couldn't get through.
Right. Right.
The air was thin enough. I just couldn't get enough oxygen to go fast. It was basic physiology. So,
right.
Training up to next January is going to try to get around that.
And that's one of the things, like when I was doing, so like I set a goal last year of doing a century every single month, and I knew that obviously the hard part was going to be the winter, and one of the things that I worried about during the winter was things like frostbite. It wasn't all the centuries I did. I got lucky enough with the weather that. The coldest maybe was.
Placed them well, yeah.
I placed them well, but I was in temperatures that were, like single digits, sub-zero to single digits on one of the rides, and there was one ride that I guess I remember the most clearly, where I was so close to the end of the ride, and I maybe had 20 miles to go or something like that, so not a big deal, but my hands hurt, and.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where that there's a certain like absolute real, physiology and physics that you're getting to the point where maybe it's dangerous. You don't know if you've hit that point, but you're starting to worry about it. And one of the things that I kind of worried about that situation was, so I took a break and warmed my hands up and that sort of stuff, and that gave me the fuel to get on it and just sort of did a self-assessment sort of thing. But, you hear about guys who go to, like, Everest or something, and the conditions are horrendous. The weather's going to be bad, like fatal kind of conditions, but they press on. And, frankly, riding in the winter could, be that sort of scenario.
Well, you admire someone like that, like,
well, right,
damn
exactly.
the, whatever.
That's the manly thing to do, is to press on in the face of all odds.
And it's totally stupid, but
right. And so that's the interesting thing that I sort of grappled with a little bit, and I'm sure you grappled with it a lot more with the Arrowhead of 135 because some conditions were way worse. But you know that there's a physical limitation, but now you've got the mental game of like, screw that, I'm pressing on, and that for me was an interesting point because I said to myself, like, I'm so close to being done, and yet my hand, I can't move my hands, they hurt really bad. Do I have to pull the plug here, or can I press on?
Yeah. Well, I guess what I would have to say about limits, especially as far as cold and that type of thing, is that I remember vividly the day I got my fat bike. It was January. It was very cold out. It was negative whatever it is in Minnesota in January this last year. It was very cold. I got my fat bike, came in the mail. I put it together. I was just like, ecstatic. I was just like, like it was the greatest thing in the world. And so, but I only had a certain amount of time to go out and ride it before I had to go do something else. I had to go pick up my wife from CrossFit or something. I can't remember. I think that was what. So I put the bike together. And I'm like, well, I got to take it on a ride before I go out. And so I went out on a ride. And this is the thing I want to tell people about limits. Like think. Don't be Kevin. Think about it. So I went on a ride. I put, my just regular shoes on and stuff like that, and I put on a baseball hat, and I went out and I rode for like 5 miles, like in the snow on snowmobile trails, and like I was having a blast. So one of the best rides of my life, that 5 miles. I mean, I was in literal like I cannot get the smile off of my face, joy. I am still dealing with the frostbitten ears today. Like they're like totally dry and just like it's awful. I deal with it now. So that is something I will say about limits. Okay, don't be a dumbass. Kevin was a dumbass, and he did not think about like maybe put the stocking hat on instead of the baseball hat.
Right.
You're not getting in the car, but it's a bike. Oh, I want to ride it.
That's where the mental stuff and the physical stuff get mixed up.
They get muddled, yeah. Right.
You get, well, is this a physical limitation or is this a mental one? And no,
exactly.
It's cold out, but it's not that cold out.
Right.
But it turns out it really is that cold out.
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
Well, and so much of the sport really is even basically all flavors that you do. Be it commuting or riding centuries or, sprinting. It's all about really sort of, trying to push those physical and mental limits and seeing how far you can take those and trying to break those barriers. And so it's a kind of a funny thing to encounter something that, because most of the time, you're out on your bike and if you ride too hard, what's the worst that's going to happen, really? You maybe barf and feel like shit and need to call for help or something like that. But then you throw yourself into a situation that's insane. Then we start to get to some more dangerous situations. So
see, and that is the thing that actually intrigues me. Like, I mean, let's for the end of this topic, let's talk about like serious limits. I mean, that is the thing that intrigues me. Like, what would I do on a situation where, okay, let's say I'm going to do 200 miles in blistering hot heat, let's just say, and I'm going to go out and ride, and let's just say the worst happens. There's flat after flat. I'm in the middle of the Midwest. There's no towns anywhere around.
Mm-hmm.
This is a limit. Like, what do you abandon the bike and walk? Do you carry the bike? Do you stuff the
roll
tube
around
full
in an
of
irrigation ditch in a cornfield?
Well, do you stuff the tube or do you stuff the tire full of grass and just hope to limp your way 5 miles to the next? I mean, what do you do? I mean, that's a serious limit, and that's like a limit. So I guess just to finish this topic off, I'd like to get you guys' opinion on okay, so you've been to a limit. What is the limit as you can see it right now?
Yeah.
And I guess I'd like to start with Andrew. What is your limit that you would see right now? And I don't want anything vague. I don't want anything like when I would do myself physical harm. No. I want give me a specific.
Are we talking about with a 200-mile ride sort of thing, or just in general? When do I pull the plug?
Your next.
My next
thing that you were going to do that actually was going to push a limit for you, when would it be to the point that you would say, you know what? This limit has been nope, not going to pass this one today.
Right. For me, I think it has always been the thing I worry most about is things like knees and ankles and the joints and the tendons and stuff. And I had a problem earlier in the season with that kind of freaked me out because it was the race season hadn't even started yet, and I was training and getting ready for it, and all of a sudden my knee's bothering me.
Well, you were training really hard.
No, I know, but but so those things kind of scare me, and even then I pushed through it, and
not wise, by the way.
Well, it actually was fine, but
in the end it was okay.
And the doctors even said it was fine. They said I was not doing damage. So, but so I think number one is when I can tell that I'm doing physical damage and not the
this hurts.
This hurts and I'm cramping and that sort of stuff. But something that you can't really fix is not going well. And the second one is if my chain breaks, that sort of thing.
But that has happened once before, Andrew, and we pushed through it.
And we got lucky. Yeah. We got lucky.
You were really good, by the way. I was ready to splice your chain, and that would not have been fun. So.
That would not have been fun. Yeah. So it's when it comes down to it, it's all about the mechanical problems, whether they're biological or on the bike.
Very good. So, Christopher, what would you say about limits? When would you pull the plug, or when would you say this is actually a limit that is worthy to be surpassed?
That I can't surpass, you mean? One that
or
is
that
hard...
you could, or that you should. I mean, it's a very fine line.
Yeah. I don't know. I was initially going to answer this question in terms of what the next goal is, what the next limit I set for myself is. You were talking at the outset of the show, Kevin, about how you need a goal to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
So that I have, I guess, those kinds of limits, races I'd like to do or whatever. But I mean, damaging myself in a permanent way, that's not appealing.
Right. Yeah.
But then again, I feel much, much more in danger on my short little flat commute to work every day than I do ever felt in the Arrowhead. I mean, the morons going by in cars are a much greater danger to me than what I was doing out there, a wolf or a moose or something.
Right.
On the other hand, you read about people who just miss the line on the curve and they hit their head on a beam and they're dead. That's terrifying.
Exactly.
So I guess I don't know how I would answer the question. I'll have to think more about it. You'll have to have me back on another show.
Sounds good.
Well, absolutely. But I guess I don't want to let you go that easy. What I would say is this: what is your next limit you're pushing yourself for? I mean, you have other races you're going to be doing, obviously. What's your next goal, I guess, or limit that you're going to be trying to push?
Okay. Well, the very next one, I'm going to ride the Lutzen 99er at the end of the month on my fat bike, and I'm going to see if I can do it in a time that would be respectable on my gravel bike at the Almanza or something like that.
Sure.
For me, that means probably more like 7 hours. But
wow,
I've never done a long. I've never done a mountain bike race for real on dirt, so there's that. But I've never ridden in a race situation in the dry seasons on my fat bike either. So there's a whole bunch of all interconnected limits there.
Right.
And those, that's extremely motivating for me. Once I registered for that race, my level of training intensity and interest went just right back up to where it had been when I found out I got into the Arrowhead last fall. And that's really nice. I like that feeling.
Well, and you did the Frozen 40 last year, correct?
Yeah, I've done that now twice.
Yeah. And then you were saying how your mountain bike skills were not quite what you wanted them to be.
I am the shittiest single track rider ever.
Yeah. Well, and this will give you much greater experience in that, especially with a fat bike. So that's also pushing your limit in a different way. So that's fantastic. My limits, as far as what I'm pushing right now for the summer anyway, because I'm working in a job that requires me to be really active all summer long and do a lot of physical effort. My training this last couple of weeks has been almost negligent. I do maybe 5-10 miles a day, if that, and that's pushing it. So this 200-mile ride, if I pull it off, will be the summer thing. I know, raise my hands and I'll be oh, by the way, I'm done. Summer, done. All of you, the rest of the summer, until the inspiration comes around in September or whatever.
Until the next day when you're
exactly.
Well, no, I will actually say until the next race comes. Until the inspiration, Gravel Champs, Heck of the North stuff, until that comes around, which I already have scheduled out on my calendar at work, where you cannot schedule me. I already have this out. I had this out a year ago.
Right.
But so until that happens, that is going to be my thing. And then the rest of the summer, I'll pretty much be going stupid knee, stop doing your thing. Just kidding. But, yeah. Oh, by the way, I found out, Andrew, just in case your knee ever hurts in a way, like platform pedals.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Sure.
I switched my cross bike to platform pedals, and just to recover with, and my knee feels pretty great right now.
Yeah.
You'd be awesome
Honestly,
if you did a crit on platforms.
Yeah, there you
It
go.
would be great, yeah. Except for you'd be like the weird guy that
Well, one of my buddies is riding him on a single speed, so he gets looks. So he should throw some platforms on a single speed.
That's great, yeah. But the thing that makes me very sad is that my knee issues, I figured out where they came from, and it came from the fat bike, and that is very sad because my cleats weren't set up right for, like, I need to have separate shoes for my fat bike and my regular bikes. It's like the Q factor of the legs is different.
Sure.
Yeah. It made me very sad because I'm like, wait, so I need 3 pairs? No, I'm not going to buy 3 pairs of shoes. I'll just change cleats on 2. That's awful. I hate it.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Well, I hate it because I have my road or my cross bike, which is my road bike. That I have, what do you call those again? The Shimano cleats that aren't SPDs.
Oh,
that aren't SPDs. They're
yeah, I'm not sure what those are.
They're whatever. They're the road
kind of
cleats.
ones, yeah.
The road cleats. Yeah, they're plastic. Whatever. So I have those for my cross bike. So then I have my fat bike, which is SPDs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my single speed 29er, which is half SPD, half flat. So I have the flippable pedals on it, and I'm like, well, what do I do? Damn it! Okay, do I have to commit one way or the other? Like, do I make all my bikes SPDs, or do I buy another set of shoes? You know what? Because like the fat bike shoes are set up, the cleats are different than they will be for the 29er.
Yeah.
And at that point, I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna ride bikes. That's the
Kevin. The real answer is more gear.
No. I actually decided like less gear is the thing here. I'm just gonna ride bikes, and if I need to change my cleats or if I need to get different shoes, like so be it. I'll do it as the time
requires. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna because I thought about it. I'm like, so there's a $350 solution to this problem.
Yep.
Or I could just use what I have.
Yep.
Yeah. So what you're really saying is that cleats are your limits.
Well said, dude. Well said. So what I actually really am saying is that our limits is that we do not have enough sponsors on Super Number One.
Exactly.
We need Shimano and SRAM.
No, aim high.
Like,
let's go for speed play. You want speed play, trust me.
Actually, I want Crank Brothers, honestly.
Well, that's a different thing. That's for like your that's for cross and gravel riding and stuff. But for your
it's
road,
for all riding.
honestly,
I mean, look at it. They're sexy pedals. Come on, they really
if
are.
You're making eggs.
We're gonna have a fight, Andrew. We're gonna have a fight. Honestly, I think they're fantastic pedals. They look great. They come in orange.
It's true.
Done. That's all you have to say for me. Like any component that comes in orange, like, oh, apparently I want it. So.
Well, is it time for us to do product reviews?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a product to review.
Please do.
And this is a big product, an expensive product, I'm afraid. But
is it really?
Most things in biking are expensive, and so I've had this problem since I started racing. In that the team I race for, our kit is various shades of blue, and sort of
I know what you're going to review. This is great.
Semi-coincidence. Not a huge coincidence, but I went into a store that's not bike related, that's more fashion related, because I needed new sunglasses because I was getting tired of the ones that I had. And they gave me a choice between black and blue. And it's actually very hard to do this because these are polarized and the screen goes black, so I have to hold my head like this. But anyway, it turns out that the blue ones match the team kit like perfectly. Like,
yeah, they do.
It's
they
uncanny. Do. And
you are now the blue sunglasses guy on Facebook.
Exactly. I'm like kind of known for these now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because when I meet new people and talk to them, that I introduce myself, and then someone else will say like, oh, he's the guy with the blue sunglasses, and they're like, oh, that's you,
that guy.
and so it's like I can never get rid of the sunglasses.
Never.
Yeah, and if they ever break, I'm in trouble, and I'll just have to find ones that are similar to these. Which
you should probably just buy like 5 pairs right now.
Well, the problem is the store that sells these things, they like get new models every 6 months or whatever, and the old models are gone. Which is kind of the cool part about the store. But
lame.
Kiss those things goodbye. I actually should go in there and ask for a sponsorship and several of these because I'm representing on the podium, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but so the glasses are great. Everyone gives me crap for these because they're like, man.
By the way, I'm kick-ass. Like, give me money. Yeah, okay,
those aren't Aero sunglasses, and I kind of like continue to wear them because they're not Aero and they don't look like cycling sunglasses.
Yeah, and obviously it's making a huge difference.
Yeah, like that nanowatt that I'm shaving off with my sunglasses.
Or all that hair you're shaving off on your legs.
Well, it's more about beauty than watts.
Or whatever. Whatever.
You gotta try it.
I'm not gonna try it.
One of these days you should, because it'll grow back, Kevin. It will grow back.
It will grow back, but at the same time, like, I will get cold. I get wet all day.
You will
at
not
work.
get cold.
I will.
And the water will just sheet off of you because there's nothing to, hair, kind of holds it in. Anyway,
I demand a second opinion, Christopher. Hair or no hair.
So anyway,
I didn't hear him. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think he said shave your legs. That's what I heard.
Shave your legs? No.
No, I heard shave your legs. Yep.
I did not hear that at all.
So I had these great sunglasses. I'm sort of getting a lot of attention for them, and they're sort of my shtick now. But the problem is I had this helmet that I bought 2 years ago, or 4 years ago maybe. Who knows?
It's a pretty old helmet. Yeah.
It's pretty old, and it was red. And so just like the whole, it doesn't, a white helmet would work, a black helmet would be good.
It was very America.
A helmet with, but a helmet with like, black, white, and blue, that would be fine. That would match the kit nicely. But the red helmet had to go, and I had to. So it set off this long quest of me trying to find the perfect helmet. And there was this one helmet that I saw.
The perfect fashion helmet.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't act pro if you don't look pro.
Well, you're on the podium.
But right, just had to sort of look the part. Sure. But so I saw this one helmet a while ago, and it just looked ugly to me. But it had the colors were just like too perfect, and so I kind of put it to the side. Months of looking more, and I kind of came back to the helmet, and I bought the helmet, and that helmet is the POC Octal. And
not an ugly helmet. It's actually a very attractive.
It grows on you. It does grow on you, but as you see, the glasses do match up quite nicely with the helmet. Yeah. You couldn't ask for a better thing, and it matches our kit perfectly. And so I got it. It comes in 3 colors. One is white, the other is orange, and these are all.
You did not get the orange one, God.
Yeah.
Lame.
Well, and the third color is Garminium blue, which it's
sounds good.
The reason they call it that is because the team Garmin Sharp, their colors are this color, and so this is made specifically for them. But the cool thing about this helmet is I have been. In my search for helmets, here's the side. And the one thing you'll note if you're looking at the live feed, let's see if I can come back here a little bit better, is that, this helmet sort of, it doesn't look like a normal road cycling helmet. Road cycling helmets are much more low profile. This looks closer to something like a ski helmet or a hockey helmet or whatever. It's got more coverage on the lower part of your head, and also a little bit more on the sides. And so one of the things that I learned in sort of my several months of researching, what helmet I want is, there's a couple companies out there. POC is one. There's another company called Cali Protectives that, the problem with helmets, you go into a bike shop and the sales pitch is, when you say, okay, which helmet do I want? Which one's better? And the salesman will say, oh, well, you don't have to spend $1 million because they're all the same level of safety. Yeah. Which is a really terrible sales pitch because it means they all have the same minimum threshold of safety. Yeah. And, of course, the whole point of a helmet is protecting your head. And so rather than, just aiming, aiming low and setting the bar low at whatever the minimum threshold for safety is.
You'll be coma ready,
right?
Here.
Why not buy a helmet that is trying to go beyond what the standards sort of dictate? And so
Gotcha.
those two companies I mentioned, at least according to what they say in their spec sheets and their design philosophies and all that stuff, that's sort of the point of these helmets. Like the Cali Protectives one, they're playing around with lower density foam. So because the problem with helmets is that if you get low velocity impacts, they don't really do anything for you, and that can mess up your brains as well. Because most helmets are designed for high velocity impacts, so they shatter and absorb some of that energy, and so that's sort of what they're going for there. I think this helmet might actually have some of that going on for it too. But the big thing with this helmet is that the shape, these lower, the things that come lower on your head are supposed to protect areas of your head that you don't want damaged. I mean, you don't want any parts of your head damaged, but it gives you more protection than just the standard road helmet does. So that's good, and I liked that because, I mean, why buy a helmet if you're not going to try to buy something that's, going to protect you more than the average bear?
I have gone with actually wearing a bear. That is the most effective.
And it keeps angry drivers away.
Yeah, it does.
But so what else to say about this helmet? One is that, I really like this helmet. It's the last helmet I have, or I had, is the Specialized S-Works. And that was a great helmet. I mean, the time I bought it, I think it was like $230, super expensive. Compared to the helmet I had before that, it was ridiculously light. And the reason I wanted a new helmet at that time is the helmet I was wearing was just some, really cheap, who knows who even made it. But, I would get so hot that I felt like my brain was melting, and that would not be good. So I wanted something that was nice and light and cool. And so that's what I got.
My guess would be Bell, yeah.
No, it might have been... It was just a cheap mountain biking helmet. It was maybe even Giro, but I just did not like it. And so I got the...
say $230, that's about as much as I've paid for most of my bikes.
Right. Well, so the S-Works is a great helmet, and it was definitely light and cool, and I liked it, but I wanted a new one because A, it was getting kind of old, B, it was red, and C, the plastic retaining mechanism in the back had broken, and so it's probably time to get a new helmet.
Yeah.
And so this, we're talking a difference now of five years maybe in helmet technology. And so what are the great things about this? One is this is lighter than the helmet I had before. This thing weighs, let's see, what does it say on the inside?
He actually reads the helmet. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it actually says it.
That is impressive.
Yeah, I've never done that.
I will find the tag.
I think I looked down my helmet and said, did it say helmet? Yep. All right. This goes on your head. All right.
Let's see.
There you go.
I know. Here it is. This one's 250 grams. And if you go look online on these things, they will quote them as lighter, but when they were trying to sell them to the American market, they had to meet the American standards, and so they had to add a crossbar to the top or something like that.
How much time do you spend researing this?
Quite a bit.
My God,
this is what the people want. They wanted reviews.
They obviously did, and they wanted reviews that were in depth. So, and by the way, I hired a PI to go
exactly.
out this stuff.
So this thing is super light, way lighter than my last helmet, and it's competitive with a lot of helmets on the market, I would say. Even though
I've actually seen a lot of pros wearing the helmet.
Yeah, well, you've seen Garmin Sharp. But
I'm just saying.
But so it's super light, lighter, as light as many of the lightest helmets on the market. Maybe a little bit heavier, but one thing I like, it's got super thin helmet straps, and I know that one of the Specialized ones, some of the newer helmets that are coming out have these just ridiculously thin helmet straps.
They do seem to actually lay flat against your head too. They don't curl.
Yeah. They do, yeah. So they're not thick and chunky like some of the other ones, and the retention mechanism in the bottom is, just a typical retention mechanism, but I have less problems with it just being annoying, so that's good. And It's got a nice little click wheel in the back to adjust the sizing, so that's good. When I got this thing and I put it on for the first time, and I went on a bike ride, I didn't even feel like I was wearing a helmet. I mean, It's that the vents on the top, they have less vents than some helmets, but they're bigger. And so you get a lot of airflow, and again, it's so light that you don't notice it. And what's cool about the packaging is it comes with an extra set of padding to replace this when it gets all sunscreened and sweated up. And it also comes with a branded POC Octal cycling cap that goes under
Nice.
with the helmet. So
Wow.
you get more than just a helmet with the purchase. When we get to the price, you'll understand why that's a nice thing.
Okay, so how much is this?
Well, but hold on. So the one
Well,
downside.
no, don't downside it yet.
No, I gotta tell you about the downside.
Actually, downside.
So
okay.
the one downside is that if you've been cycling long enough and been educated in what is pro and what is not pro, one of the things that you have learned is that it is not
Right.
pro to wear your sunglasses underneath the helmet straps. You're supposed to wear your
Wow.
sunglasses over the helmet straps. And
I think that's absolutely crap.
I know. But I'm just educating the people here. So one of the problems with this helmet is that based on the extra thickness of the helmet, the straps come out just a little bit, and at least for these sunglasses, you can't look pro because you open your mouth. It bends the things out over your ears, and your ears kind of do weird stuff. So I got this helmet so I'd look more pro, but I had to make a pro compromise, and I have to wear my sunglasses underneath the straps.
You look more pro, but at the same time, you don't want to look like a prostitute while you're opening your mouth and going, hey! And the glasses.
You just gotta think about pain face though, and and when you're in the midst of pain face, you don't want to have your ears being bent down because that's insult to injury.
Like what people grab onto when they're doing
exactly.
Their thing. Yeah,
so that's the one downside to the thing is the strap position.
And the price.
And some people also have said that based on the back of this thing, certain sunglasses like cycling sunglasses will have a problem with hitting the back here. So all of your glasses may not work.
It actually is an issue. Yeah.
I don't have that experience.
My sunglasses. I actually don't think it's my sunglasses, but it's the shape of my head anyway. That's right.
Another hard limit.
Yeah, exactly. Hard and
where
fast.
the sunglasses earpieces go actually further back than some, so I have to wear different hats. But, yeah. Mm-hmm. So even under my cycling hat, I wear the sunglasses underneath the hat to keep them in place.
Sure.
So how much is this? Roughly
this beast. If you go online, the company quotes a price of $260. The store I bought it at, which I get a little bit of discount because I'm
because you're awesome.
No, they're one of our team sponsors, and
sure.
There's also some stores that will give you discounts just by having a USAC license, like Omnium Bike Shop. So look for those sorts of stores because that's a useful thing. So they were selling it for $270, and I ended up, getting it for basically $240 plus, or $247, I think is when I ended up paying for it.
Not bad.
So it's very expensive, but it's an important piece of gear. The other feature I forgot to mention is that they, how you see everyone put their sunglasses in their helmet.
Yeah.
These things have these nice little, they call it the eye garage. These little pads that are designed to hold your glasses in there securely. So it's the first time I've ever been able to do that.
I would like to say my helmet does that as well.
My last one did not do that. So,
my helmet does do that. It was $60. But that's it. I don't know if it was designed to do that, but it does.
And the cool part is it's got a little ingredients list. It tells you what the contents of the helmet are.
Brains.
Yeah, brains. Yeah. Brains is the one they... Well, they couldn't generalize, and they didn't know who was going to wear the helmet, so they, the FDA might get them on that one. So, But yeah. So it's a cool helmet. It's got some interesting stylings. I like them, and I've gotten a lot of comments on the glasses, and so now, the helmet, and now, so in addition to the glasses, now people can talk about the helmet. So
very good.
Happy with it. Very expensive, but a helmet is a thing that's worth it. So
very good.
Check it out.
So what I would like to say is I have no products to review this time because I haven't bought anything. I haven't done a lot of riding, but what I would like to actually ask Christopher at this point is that he actually has a pair of the tires on his fat bike that I would love to have, and that is the 45 North Husker Do's.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk about these tires just for a couple of minutes here. So what I have right now on my fat bike is the the V Tire Missions, and they are absolutely lousy on snow. They're wonderful on dirt. and pavement. They're great. Get them up to 15 psi, which is like abnormally high for a fat bike, and they're great. But snow, not so good. And I was really looking at getting a pair of the Husker Dus, especially because my bike is a framed Minnesota 2.0. And honestly, I want to keep with the theme, and so Minnesota Husker Du makes sense. So tell me about these Husker Dus. I mean, how do they perform on snow, and would you consider them to be a good year-round tire?
Yeah, they're fantastic on snow. I got them especially because I knew I'd be riding in some pretty long races, and I didn't want to worry that my the stock tires on my Knockluck would fail. So I went splurged. I mean, they're not cheap, but they did really well on snow. Pretty much all the fast guys and women run Dillingers, which kind of surprised me because they're, to my eye at least, awfully similar. But I was really pleased with how the Husker
Aren't those
used.
the 5-inch tires?
There is a 5-inch Dillinger now, but they have the 4-inch one has been out for a couple of years, I guess.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Virtually everybody runs. There's a studded Dillinger, too, and I think that's one of the reasons people like it. But I took them off once the snow left and put my stock tires back on because I'd read that the Husker Dus wear really fast on anything that's not snow. And the last thing I wanted was to burn them out over the 6 months of dry riding and then have to buy a new pair in the fall.
So what did you put on, Nate's?
Yeah, I've got whatever the stock setup was from Salsa. It must be a Nate in back and an Endomorph in front, or maybe it's the other way around.
Wow, so that must be a pretty old model of Knockluck they use then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's an 11, actually.
Oh, okay, because they don't make the Endomorphs anymore. That's why I was wondering. Okay.
And those function for me perfectly fine on dirt. You got to inflate them a little higher.
I've heard nothing but good things about the Nates. Actually, a friend of mine who rides with us on fat bikes, he rides a fat bike as well. He actually told me that I need different tires on mine because the missions are too quiet, and so I should get some Nates because they don't make enough noise when you're on pavement.
They're loud.
They don't sound like a car as much.
Yeah.
I mean, they still. I was riding the other day with my wife. We were riding on a road, and I was riding behind her because she was riding her cross bike, and I was riding my fat bike, and she kept looking behind me, going, "I keep thinking it's a car," because I'm like, behind her, and I'm like, "Well, it's not. It's just me. Now stop it."
Yeah, I've scared a couple people, especially at the crests of hills, if they're coming towards me, and I'm going. They don't see what's coming up the hill, but they hear it, and then it's just little old me on my bike. Especially if I have a really bright headlight, that'd be the best. Oh, that'd be awesome.
Come over the top of the hill and be like, oh, by the way, I have 3,000 lumens or something, and then.
Right.
I'm like, oh, it's just a bike. Joke's on you. But, well, I'm really glad to hear that because those Husker Dus look great to me. The problem with the V missions that I've had and that I've talked about before on an earlier podcast was that in the snow, when you were on an off camber, they just slid. And it was the worst. You just could not keep anything that was on a angle, and it was very, very frustrating. So that'd be great. I'm looking forward to getting a pair of those tires and putting them on my bike, and I will be very happy. Yeah. So glad to hear it. Andrew.
Yes.
We've talked about products.
We have.
We've talked about limits. We need to talk about other important things, and one of them is where people can read Christopher's blog.
Jesus, put me on the spot.
No, I know where it is. Right. I do. All right. So, awesome blogs that he has. Okay, so there's Blowing and Drifting, which you need to check out. And then also, Christopher, you have your other specific blog that's just gravel cycling, I believe?
Yeah, more or less. Fat bikes and gravel bikes.
Is it a blogspot thing? I'm sorry, I forget the name of that one.
It's called Snow and Gravel right now. It's a Tumblr blog.
Oh, Tumblr, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But it's linked on my main page.
So where can people go to check out your blogs and see like what is going on with you and biking and whatnot?
Well, if you Google blowing and drifting and my last name, Tassava, it should come up. I can get over to the exact URL here really quick, too. So it's www.tassava.com /
Nice.
blowing and drifting with dashes between blowing and drifting. So,
nice.
Yeah.
See, he didn't even know it either.
No, I
Well,
didn't.
that's the sign of a true blogger. Where, like, I spend more time writing than I do like referencing it. That's the idea. So, that's what I do, except for not either of those. But Andrew, that first of all, everyone go check it out, because honestly, Christopher, I have to say, like, your Arrowhead blogs were really inspiring.
Thanks.
Really great. They made me. They made me really want to do the ride. Before I wanted to do it, and then I really wanted to do it. So now I really want to do it, and it's going to be another year, but I'm going to do it. That'll be fantastic.
Awesome.
So everyone, check out those blogs. You will not regret it at all. Andrew, if people want to get a hold of our show, how would they do so?
The first way would be to follow the lead of our fantastic reviewers at the beginning of the show that we referenced, and leave a review on iTunes. I will let you smart folks figure out how to do that. But the other way to get a hold of us would be to send us an email, and our email address is supernumber1cast@gmail.com. You can send us things to talk about on the show, topic ideas, product ideas, etc.
Comments, criticisms, we enjoy them all.
All of the above. The other thing to do is, of course, we're on Facebook. Kevin, hats off to you, sir. Kevin has started to do a little more than
use Facebook. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. Do a little more than Andrew's. There is a new episode on our Facebook side. So if you just look for Super Number One Cycling on Facebook, I think it's maybe facebook.com/supernumber1. Who knows? Just search for it. You'll find it.
Yeah.
There's actually probably a link on our webpage, which is supernumber1.net. You're smart people. You'll figure it out. The third way, and maybe the most effective way to get a hold of us quickly, would be through Twitter. The show page is supernumber1, and better yet, Kevin and I individually are the nth Andrew. That's me, obviously, because it says Andrew. And Kevin is the 4tree. And we do a fair amount of tweeting on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And and our guest, Christopher, can be found at Tassava. Lucky you to have a non last name like mine.
Right.
So you were able to score that.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. Nobody can spell it.
I'm sure.
It's all mine.
So it's Tassava. So you can find him there.
You and I have the same problem, as where we have last names that are relatively unique. No one can pronounce them the first time, and if they do, it's like, wow, good job. And when they do, then you actually ask, like, am I related to you? You got it right. We must be related, distantly in some way, because nobody knows that. So, yeah, there's a blessing and a curse to having a weird last name.
Yeah. I like it overall.
I like having a last name. Yeah, me too. Okay, that was not a good way to end this show.
Well, we all have last names. That's a good thing. They can distinguish us from all the other people.
Yeah,
that's true. Like surnames, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Mortals, surnames. Yeah.
This has been fun, guys.
Right.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for joining us.
Something we planned for a long time. We finally made it happen. So.
Yeah, and we definitely need to have you back on soon, because there are many more things I would like to pick your brain about, especially in regards to rides that are going to make me weep. So.
Your 200-miler sounds like the real deal.
I honestly don't think that's going to be as hard as I think it will be. We'll see, I guess, but 200 miles will be a very long ride, but at the same time, it's going to be in, like, honestly, what's the worst weather that can come up is a headwind and, like, oh no, 50 degrees. Oh.
No. You're going to have blast furnace. It's going to be a headwind and 100 degrees.
Honestly, I work on a golf course all day long, give me the 100 degrees. I can deal with it. That's no problem.
We'll quote you on that. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I did the
This has been
inspiration.
recorded.
I am used to it. I'm used to the heat. Heat is bad, but honestly, you can give me extreme heat over extreme cold, and I will be better able to deal with the extreme heat because you can always stop and cool down. When you're dealing with extreme cold, don't stop. Keep going.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's
true.
It's a different machine. Like I can do both of them, but it's much easier to cool down than it is to heat up.
Okay, Kevin, I'm gonna give you a bit of advice here, and I want you to take it seriously. Because on our last century, you did not take my advice. You did not take your own advice, and you paid for it dearly.
Did I?
And so on when you do this ride, here's what I want you to do.
Hey, what, you're talking about the Northfield one?
On our Northfield Century, yeah.
No, I thought it did pretty well.
No, you did fine, except for the fact that you did not eat anything for the first 50 miles.
Oh, yeah, that was a problem, yeah.
And so on this ride, I want you to eat every hour.
Every hour? How much calories?
Just something.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
I was going to say, like, I'm not going to eat, like, seriously every
No. I'm not suggesting that, but I want you to eat and not do like you did last time and say like, I'll be okay.
I'm fine. And then he gets like, Andrew, do you have any food? I need food. I'm going to die. We only have 10 miles to Northfield, but I'm going to die right now. We need to you need to give me food.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, I was feeling great that first 40 miles. I was like, this is fine. No problem. 40 miles? Whatever. Then I realized, hang on. I'm riding at Andrew's pace and not my pace. Yeah. Energy. Yeah. Especially what did you have for breakfast this morning? I had a glass of water and some coffee. I think I had an oatmeal bar or something like that. I'm like, I'm done. How much is that? Like 300 calories? Oh, that's good.
No big deal.
Yeah, no problem. 40 miles. Let's go. Yeah. Not smart.
Yeah, not smart.
Not smart. No, I've been asked by many people who are at my wife's CrossFit gym. So you're doing 200 miles? Like, yeah. So how are you going to hold all the food that you're going to bring with? I'm like, well, it's actually not as big of a problem as like how am I going to hold all the water?
Right. Right.
But yeah, like I'll have lots of food. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get a frame bag and I'm going to put all this food in there and it's all going to be like super calorie dense stuff
or just hit gas stations,
Can't hit gas stations all the way.
Yeah. Link those puppies up.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with long rides, especially with gas station type thing, I hate stopping.
That's true.
I hate stopping. Because when I stop, it's just an invitation to sit down.
Oh yeah, it's so comfortable. It's terrible.
Yeah, like oh my God, that cement sidewalk looks so comfortable. Like don't sit down. Like just keep going. Like even 1 hour past that point, it's like that's progress. So I hate stopping. So even when I do stop at a gas station to like refill water or anything like that, I don't sit. I just like stand around and like
fill my ears with beeswax and strap me to the top tube. I will not be tempted by your gas station.
That is a very like highbrow reference.
Well, we got it though.
Yeah, like wow, Odysseus.
Very nice. I
All
never got
right.
sirens at a gas station.
Yeah. So the first person to send us an email that says sirens in the title of the email gets a prize. I'll figure out the prize.
Very good. Well, thank you again, Christopher, for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. It's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess we'll see you guys when we see you next.
Yeah. Chat Twitter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Toodles.
Salut.